joined from Abuja by Nigerian security analyst Chidi Omeje. Chidi, thanks very much indeed for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me, and good morning from this end.
Tell us what you know about this group, the Lakurawa, and why they seem to be gaining some momentum.
The Lakurawa terror group, actually, these guys started off in Niger Republic in the 90s, early 90s, during the regime of the late Menasara. Menasara was the former president of Niger Republic. Now, the president then, in his wisdom, brought those guys to brought guys together to train them, locals together to train them, to help in warding off cross-border bandits, especially those bandits from Mali. So now he got those guys kept training them, but when he died eventually, through coup d'etat, these guys who are already formidable, they splintered. Some went to different places, but most of them, found their way into Nigeria. Don't forget that there's this, you know, um, border issues about Nigeria and Niger Republic. So it's quite easy for Nigerians to move into Nigeria and vice versa. So these guys, surreptitiously moved into the country, into Nigeria, and found safe haven in most of these ungoverned spaces in those border areas. So over time, these guys began to simmer into begin to diffuse into communities in those areas, surreptitiously began to co-opt the youths in those areas, because don't forget that there's this cultural, linguistic, and proximity affinity between Nigerian and some parts of Nigeria and then the Nigerian Republic. They speak Hausa language. They have a lot of things in common, so it was easy for them to settle there. So over time, they began to have a foothold in some of those Nigerian communities. Now, at a point, they gained the trust of the locals, local authorities. In fact, they used them to ward off some other banditry and all manner of things. And before you knew it, they had their own plans and they grew into a monster. So it was late in 2024 that the defense headquarters of Nigeria, now formally having we got information on a lot of what the activities, now declared them as a terror group. So it was just in 2024, last year, that they were formally designated as a terror group, as one of the terror groups assailing the country. Now, the Lakarawa group, like I told, like we've seen, they began to develop affinity and links to terror networks. It was even assumed or believed that they had to do with the ISIS. So now this is just one terror group among others, that actually, are selling the country. So the Lakaroa groups is not that they're very interactive, but the problem has always been the fact that they have a way of mixing with the locals, such that even if most times when you strike them, probably if Nigerian authorities have always had the problem of, you know, um, how to actually deal with the situation, because you don't know who you're dealing with. These guys have already diffused into the communities, and it was difficult to now probably do a carpet bombing or whatever without collateral damages. So these are the issues. These are what most people think, that they're intractable. It's not that that formidable, but the issue of identity is the problem, especially. That's my initial reaction.
Okay, so we know their origins, but what keeps them going now? What is their primary reason for being? Is it ideological? Is it a jihadist agenda? Or maybe just opportunistic economics? Or what's driving them now?
Yeah, as time is going on, as we move on now, you see, all the factors you listed are beginning to have an intermix, because, like I told you originally, these guys were essentially, when they started off, it was not an ideological thing, but don't forget that the jihadist, principle is what runs in the veins of these bandits and terrorists in the northern Nigeria, because most of them, almost all of them, always have that, allegiance to Islamic stuff. So now, what is driving them currently is a combination of all the factors. They have that, at the back of their mind that they are jihadists. They, of course, they're economic plunderers because, of course, they have to, once in a while kidnap people and they get ransom to fund, probably to fortify themselves. And they have that, that tendency to have a foothold, seeing that the entire Sahel, the geopolitics in the Sahel have become such a turmoil, and that such that they can have a grind, but in Nigeria or in Nigeria Republic or elsewhere, they can get foothold. So currently, there is an intermix of these factors you mentioned, and that's exactly what is making it difficult for the authorities to have an easy reign on them, because anything that is religious or ideological is in the mind. It's very difficult to deal with. And so, like I said, it's a combination of for most. If as we speak currently, apart from these Lakurawa guys, most of these other terror and bandit groups, have this intermix of issues that sustain them. Some they have the religious, issues where they have such allegiance, and it helps them to sustain themselves. And of course, the fact that they're economic plunderers, they're engaged in all manner of things, kidnapping, cattle rustling, and every other thing that could get them, resources to fund their terror activities. So these are the issues.
Chidi, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us on this growing group. And I think this is a story we certainly need to be paying attention to. But thank you for your insights today.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
That's Nigerian security analyst Chidi Omeje giving us his thoughts on this new group called the Lakurawa. And they seem to be operating mostly in the rural areas, particularly along the border with Niger. And their ability to absorb themselves in local communities is making it difficult for the local authorities to deal with this insurgency.
Got something to say?